Hey guys, so here's our war against AGT Diamond. We knew that they were very formidable, and I wasn't terribly surprised then to see them throwing a curveball and running Bulwark instead of Protect. You can see I throw that invulnerability boost on because I have already checked, and I know that this Aarkus is SIG 20. If you've heard me talk about Aarkus before, you know that I actually consider him more dangerous at low SIG because I think that Claire is one of his best counters. And if you are using her when he's at low sig, it can be incredibly difficult to get tenacity off of cooldown using stuns. And then you know that he is going to activate that tenacity when you try and put buff immunity on. Also, public service announcement, check your battery levels. I'm usually pretty safe using an iPad, but, sometimes you have problems. So right there is exactly why tenacity matters so much to me with Claire, because if he shrugs it, then every attempt at power steal is going to give him a power gain buff. The reason that I risked it here is because I would rather get that L2 off than be pushed to an L3 at low charges, and I was using that power back buff, so I knew I'd be right back up to almost another L2. Because I used the Indestructible, and that second L2 got rid of his power gains, and then he tried to proc a bunch more, each of which gave me another charge because it was a buff he was immune to, then I was right there for the L3, and you can see how that almost finished it. If I had just been able to fight my instincts well enough to not try and dodge that L2, which I do not recommend, that was purely an instinctual play, not intelligent, then I would have finished that fight at about 90%. So even low sig Aarkus can be handled by Claire, but that fight went about as I expected. So now we have this Longshot. I know he has power alternator, so I know it's going to be difficult for me to get to my L2. That's okay. My main reason for taking this fight was I wanted to get Reed extra charges. I knew that because of power alternator, it might be difficult for me to get more than one extra charge, but one extra charge is one extra pre-fight, and those can be helpful. So their power alternator kicked in. I lost a little bit, but he didn't really gain much either because power alternator is subject to petrify. So once you have that up, it's a pretty good way to keep your opponent under control. See, he actually lost power there because I had just barely more than him. So I do really want him to throw that last special because I want that passive. There we go. And now I should have finished that combo because I think I would have gotten to my special too, and then I would have stacked the buffs. It's not a huge deal because I don't need this fight under control to the extent where I need stacks of all three pre-fights, and I know that as long as I reapply them, I still get those persistent charges back, and that's what matters to me, but it would have been nice. Now what I should have done is rather than counter his special one there, I should have just waited, and then I should have intercepted with my special one, but I underestimated my own increased power gain from the Careful Study passive, and I went yellow, and so I only ended that fight with 5 charges instead of 6 or 7. So this next one is Nick on Encroaching Stun. I know how dangerous this is. You see that Cosmic Ghost Rider's my profile there. That's because I did something I almost never do, and I turned on half suicides. Maxed recoil and maxed double edge. Because I knew this fight was going to be difficult, and I knew that the longer it lasted while he was in his second life and unstunnable, the more dangerous this would be. That said, I have fought Nick here a fair bit. I am comfortable intercepting with specials. I dueled a lot. One big thing I practiced is that wall kick after the special. It doesn't always land, but you see I do get it there. He's kind of tricky to get it 100% on because he does stand up pretty quickly, but I'm fairly consistent with it. You notice I also did throw the suppression pre-fight on him with Mr. Fantastic. I'm going to lose it, or I did lose it when he went into his second life, but it did help keep the first part of the fight under control. So now he has 2 Furies. He's hitting incredibly hard. I should have waited on that. I should not have thrown that special 2. And then what I should have done after I threw that special 2, and I knew that the Encroaching Stun timer came back, I should have backed up, hoped he came after me, and thrown the special 1 there. Because if it had caught him, the fight would have been over at almost full health. And instead, I stayed there, threw it into his block, ate a full combo, and that killed me. This, I know, is one of my personal weaknesses. After a fight is over, I almost always know the right thing to do. I don't always do it in there, but hopefully that insight is helpful to some of y'all going forward. So at this point, I am not very heavily boosted for this sorcerer. I do not have suicides on. I didn't heal all the way to full. None of those I'd recommend, but AGT had finished our entire map in all 3 battle groups, and they died 2 times total. We had a solid showing, but not that solid. And so we knew this was over. I knew that I just needed to get this down. I had actually come into this with Reed, which is why at the end of this you will see attack bonus achieved and not full attack bonus achieved, because this is where we were in terms of this war. I did not want to revive Magik, and I was actually going to take a crack at this with Reed, but his pre-fights failed, and I didn't catch it. And while I still think that this is a very good matchup for him with Petrify and Suppression and the ability to stack them, it is an awful, awful matchup without that. And when his pre-fights fail, you can't get them back if you enter the fight, because they are actually spent, and you can't use the L2 to re-trigger them. So like I said, it was hopeless. I force quit out of that, costing us an attack bonus. I really don't like that. At the end of war seasons, every attack bonus can matter, but there was no point in continuing with that fight. And so I revived Magik, I came in. The block damage is starting to add up from Aspect of Evolution, because she's only gained a couple bars of power, but every one of those has increased her attack and her block penetration. So I am playing a little bit more risky here than just straight parry combo, because I know I need to keep my block damage down. Of course, she's doing her best to not hit into me while I have Limbo up, which would allow me to actually heal. But that's okay. I know how to fight her here. I'm comfortable with Magik. I don't mind intercepting and backdrafting. And I know that this fight is going to go down. And then I'll let my BG mate take out the boss. It was fun to dust off Magik. She used to be my go-to in war for just seasons and seasons, and I just don't get a chance to use her that much anymore thanks to Protect. But this was enjoyable, despite the Fury fight. Hopefully that goes better next time I take it. Congrats to AGT Diamond. They are really kicking butt this season, and I will see you guys next time.